Are you wondering, is DBT or CBT most helpful for me? Which one? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. In this video, we are talking about DBT versus CBT. So first, we're going to talk just a little bit about what is DBT, what is CBT. If you don't even know those things, you probably didn't find this video, but we'll take just a little bit to talk about what those acronyms mean in the therapy world. And then we're going to talk about how to determine what you might need at a given time. So what is better for you? Also, we're going to talk about the teaching self-government system and what the teaching self-government system best aligns with. So DBT stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. In Dialectical Behavior Therapy, which I will now just always say DBT, what a person does is they learn to name what is happening to them. They name their emotions, they name their feelings, they name what they're experiencing, so they're able to describe what is happening, and then they take it a step further and they accept what is happening. In fact, they accept what they're describing as part of themselves. DBT is a great first step in a therapeutic process. It's this great time where you say, okay, what is happening? Let's diagnose it. Let's understand. Let's analyze it. And let's not beat ourselves up over it either. Okay, let's keep a very healthy perspective. When someone is struggling with something like anxiety or depression, feelings of self-loathing, when they are experiencing something that's really tough, it's an important part of the process to be able to say, this is what's happening. This is what's going on with me. Right now, I am feeling this. I am experiencing this. And it's okay that I'm experiencing that and that I'm going to talk about that. It's okay for me to recognize that that's happening. See, some people spend some time running away from their problems. They don't want to acknowledge that they ever have a problem. They don't want to need treatment. They don't want to have to talk to anybody. They just want the problem to go away without ever addressing it. DBT is usually the first step in addressing it because it's where we say, this is what's going on. Now, I do have to say, just as a caveat for this whole video, that people may describe DBT differently than what I just described to you. Some therapists may practice DBT differently. Same could go for CBT, by the way, because each therapist is going to bring their perspective, their experiences, their personality, their belief systems into anything that they are talking to you about. They're going to bring their worldview in. So be careful that who you choose to either do DBT or CBT for you has an understanding of what these things are, and that you ask them, what does DBT mean to you? What is the practice going to look like? Are there going to be action steps, or is it just going to be words? Is it going to be talking about my feelings again and again? Or are we going to get to a point where we actually do something about it? Some people in the DBT world take action steps. Some people feel like you need to just come to your own decision on your own so that you pick whatever action steps that you want to do, and I'm not going to give any suggestions there. Oftentimes DBT ends up going down the road of excuse making if they don't know what they're doing. So I had multiple children who were in therapy because, as many of you know who follow the stuff on this channel and who have subscribed to stuff on this channel, for many years I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. And so it was up to me to help them reach their therapeutic goals in my home. I also, of course, have raised my own children. And so I've raised 4, but then I've brought in many into my home over the years to do this therapeutic treatment care. And so those children were usually all court ordered to attend therapy, oftentimes even more than one type of therapy, which does need to be brought up. There's certain types of therapy that are best at certain times, and some therapies are meant to build on each other, okay? So oftentimes what I saw when my foster children would go to a therapist who was practicing dialectical behavior therapy, is they would end up saying, well, this is just how I am. There's a point where you say, this is how I process, and it's okay that I know that about myself, but do I want it to stay the same? Can I actually make plans for myself and make choices? That's a really productive thing. So I love Adlerian psychology, where it really focuses on the choice that a person is able to make and not excuses. Freudian psychology really hands out more excuses, and I'm not as big of a fan there, even though obviously they both have their pros and their cons, okay? Things that they brought to the movement that were productive, and then maybe things that weren't. If a person comes back from their therapy session with an excuse and they don't feel motivated to work on anything, to move themselves forward, to become what they would consider to be a better version of themselves, then they can end up stuck. So then where do they go from there? And what does that mean when they're working with other people? So I've worked with a lot of families who have children in therapy as well, where they're trying to help get the behaviors under control because the behaviors have gone wild. Because it's like, I have another child on the spectrum, and so I can't do this, I can't do this. And they start to put these little bubbles around their children, kind of bubble wrapping them so that the children are protected because they can't process this and they can't process this. And so instead of helping the child find a path toward more normalization so that they can get along in the world, they instead isolate the child by saying, that's just how you are. That's just how you are. And then the child thinks, I'm trapped because that's just how I am. I can't get past this. You know, I have personality disorder, so, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to deal with being suicidal. No, you don't. There's things that you can do. You can say, I have personality disorder that leads me to more suicidal ideation than what other people would do because of these components. You know, you can back it up. But then you say, but because I know that about myself, now I'm going to make a plan with that in mind. So that brings me to CBT. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is where a person says, okay, what's going on? What are the behaviors? What are the thoughts? What are the feelings? What are the emotions? So we're going to now separate all of these things out. And we're going to assume that with every one of these things, there are thoughts that are associated with these things. So when I have a feeling, I have a thought, and then I have an emotion. Well, what's my thought? Is it a productive thought? Is it a helpful thought? Is it a thought that takes me in the direction I want to go or not? If it is a non-productive thought, then I'm going to analyze that thought, decide why I have to throw it out, and I'm going to say, that's not my thought anymore. Now I'm going to choose on purpose to have this thought. CBT is definitely this process of saying, I'm not okay just staying the same way. I'm moving forward, and I'm going to start choosing now. Now, are there some drawbacks to CBT? There can be. A person does need to make sure that they say to themselves, it is okay that I'm dealing with this. I think a person could jump into CBT and could, you know, if they don't take the time to really acknowledge what's happening, which should be part of a good therapeutic session. If someone's doing CBT, I would think that would have to be a given, right? So I would think you'd want to transition from DBT into CBT to help the person get to where they feel like they're on a baseline for themselves, a great, you know, normal for themselves. There are different ways that people do CBT, and so you're going to want to ask a therapist about that as well. You want to make sure that they are really letting you come up with the thoughts and helping you analyze those thoughts, and making sure that they are leading you in productive directions. If a person doing CBT doesn't have your same moral compass, then you could end up taking thoughts that don't feel right for you afterward, because this is a time where you're pre-planning thoughts. You're making a plan for yourself and your actions and your thoughts. It's powerful stuff. So how do you know if CBT or DBT is going to be right for you? And how does teaching self-government come into that? I do think that when it comes to therapy, it's really hard to hit the mark on therapy without some discernment. I'm a spiritual person, and I really try to use spiritual discernment about what I need. If you feel like you are eating yourself up, that you are self-loathing, that you are thinking of yourself as a bad person, if you've got those types of things that are going on, you probably need DBT, and hopefully then you would transition to CBT. But as you're picking someone to help you through that, make sure you're very careful about that, or you have someone you trust help you pick someone who has your same moral compass in mind. Then CBT. CBT is actually, I would say, more of the practical, okay? It's like, here we are, we say, we know we need to fix this. I know I'm not a bad person, I just don't know how to get past this habit or this hang up or this mindset. I just got to get past it. How do I get past it? If you're more in a productive mindset, then you're going to want to go to CBT. Or if you just feel stuck, go to CBT. If you say, I know this is what's wrong with me, and I know that I need to accept that that's what's going on, but I don't know what to do next. Well, then you're probably ready for CBT, because CBT is going to help you move forward with what to do next. It's going to focus less on coping with feelings and instead on saying, okay, what can I do to get myself to the next level? Or when it comes, what is my brain doing so that I can make sure that I have the right thought processes prepared for those moments when they arise. It's a great pre-teaching. How does that bring us to teaching self-government? So teaching self-government is a type of parenting and a type of communication, or a type of a way of seeing yourself where you focus on self-government. Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So that means you're analyzing yourself regularly and making plans for how you move forward. It definitely aligns well with CBT because it is very heavy on pre-teaching yourself. But there is a lot of description in it too. So let's talk, so that would be DBT. So I actually feel like teaching self-government is this great combination of CBT. When people fail at using teaching self-government, it's usually because they haven't learned the full program. That happens. But also it's because they're just taking a CBT mindset and not bringing in the DBT mindset. Or they're just taking a DBT mindset and saying, well, I don't know how this is supposed to work, and they're not bringing in the pre-planning, okay? Some people just by nature don't like to pre-plan. They're more live in the moment, spontaneous type people. They're maybe even more emotional people. They love the DBT component. Okay, let's describe what's happening. Let's make sure you feel understood. Let's make sure it feels like a safe place, that we feel loved and connected. Those are going to be things that resonate more with a DBT approach. But then when you say, okay, but I'm not following instructions, how do I get myself to follow instructions? What do I need to tell myself in the moment when someone gives me an instruction so that I can choose to follow it? That's when we start getting into the CBT approach. So that pre-teaching the mind to prepare for success in skill and in action is a great CBT approach to take. So when a person is getting corrected for a behavior, there should be a nice blend between DBT and CBT if the approach is done well. When a parent is correcting another person, they start with a description. Right now, this is what is happening. When you do this, this is probably what occurs. Then maybe even having a discussion about that, right? If the child wants to discuss that, or if the parent thinks they need to go into kind of a parent counseling session, which is a great thing to bring into your parenting interactions. And I talk about that in my TSG parenting course. Maybe we need to have some understanding, but then we move on to, well, what you should have done was, right? Let's move yourself in a forward direction then. Or in our parent counseling sessions, which I have a whole video all about. You're going to definitely want to check out this video. Break the lecturing habit, TSG, and open communication. Because in there, I talk about how to do a parent counseling session. It's going to be really valuable to you. You'll be able to see how you can also help your child decide, okay, well, what should happen next? If I'm having a problem, if we're trying to conquer a new behavior or something like that, that's going to be really powerful for you. So, and that's something that honestly I don't talk about as much on here. I save that usually for some of my courses and trainings, but I did feel like it was important for people to see how to get the child invested in what they're and what they're wanting to change about themselves too. And so we tell them this is what you should have done. We point them in that correct direction, help them move forward with that. But also there is a place for them making that decision, which is a very CBT thing to do as well. I do believe in a person getting all the information, analyzing properly so that they can make good decisions that they can invest in for their mental health future. So if you've enjoyed this video, I highly recommend moving on to the next one. Break the lecturing habit, TSG, and open communication. I'll see you there.